Hi, I'm Greg Byrne, and welcome to our program on hunger in Worcester County. The goal of today's program is to raise awareness about the issue of hunger in our local area. Joining us today will be Jean McMurray, Executive Director of the Worcester County Food Bank. Jean will tell us what hunger is and if it really exists in our area. She'll also talk about how the Worcester County Food Bank operates and what you can do to help fight hunger. Please stay tuned at the end of this program to learn about what resources are available in your specific community. Jean, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Hunger exists in Worcester County.
Yes, I know. It's hard to believe, but I think over the years, especially in these last couple of years with the recession and the slow economic recovery, people are beginning to realize just to what extent right here in our own backyards, there's hungry people. People who might be going to school with your children, could be a co-worker, someone you ride the bus with.
People that we know are affected by hunger.
And I think between 2008 and 2010, hunger hit closer to home for more households than ever before. Households with children, people who are working, those who are unemployed or underemployed, as well as senior citizens living on fixed incomes. And I'm sure that most of our audience today perhaps has a family member, a co-worker, or a neighbor who has probably had to reach out and ask for help for the first time in their lives.
What does the term food insecurity mean? We hear that sometimes bandied about. What does that mean exactly?
Sure. Food insecurity is a term that applies to households that cannot afford to buy enough food for a healthy life. Families in these households will tend to do a couple of things: eat smaller meals, skip meals, or run out of food altogether. As a result, they have to use a variety of coping strategies where they will eat less varied diets, they will participate in the food stamp program, which is a federal nutrition assistance program, or they'll seek emergency food assistance through the food bank and its network of food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters.
We also hear about people who have to make tough decisions whether or not to pay for heat or medicine or rent or other expenses, and instead buy food or not buy food to pay for those other expenses. Is that also part of what food insecurity refers to?
Absolutely. We live in New England, and so we have a different cost of living than some other parts of the country. But during the winter months, we do see a spike because people are choosing whether to eat or heat their homes. Again, in the summertime, families' household budgets might be stressed a little bit because now their children aren't in school and aren't getting the school breakfast or lunch program, so now they are looking at having to provide more food. So people can experience hunger at all different times of the year depending on their individual circumstances. And
statistically, about what percentage of people in Worcester County are affected by hunger or would classified as being affected by hunger?
Almost 12% of people in Worcester County are what we would consider living at or below the federal poverty line. In 2010, the food bank and its network of partner agencies helped close to 86,000 individuals, of which 33,000 were children under the age of 18. Now that's just counting each person once, but some individuals and families have to seek help more than one time a year. So if we add up all the people, all the times that they got help, it's well over 400,000. And again, that's just for Worcester County.
Wow, that's way too high.
Right, yeah.
That's way too high. At the food bank, tell us a little bit about what the food bank is and maybe how it differs from a food pantry.
Sure. Well, the Worcester County Food Bank is what you call a regional food bank. We're responsible for helping people in just Worcester County. There's 4 food banks altogether in the state of Massachusetts, and in the country there's over 200. And together we make up a network called Feeding America. So how the Worcester County Food Bank works is that we serve as a centralized collection warehouse operation, and we go out and pick up food, or we collect food at our site on Route 9 in Shrewsbury, and then we redistribute that food out to a network of food programs. In 2010, we were distributing that food to 163 partner agencies. As I mentioned, food pantries, shelters, soup kitchens. And then those programs in turn make sure that food gets to individuals and families in their neighborhoods, in their cities, in their towns.
So the individual usually goes to the shelter or the food pantry. The food pantry goes to you folks, so you're sort of like the supply line.
That's right. And we really need each other. That's why we call agencies partner agencies, because they need us just as much as we need them. Mm-hmm. We can focus on collecting all the wholesome, nutritious food that's available, and then they are the ones that know their communities the best. They have those local relationships with families, and so we really are doing what each of us does best.
With the way the economy's been, have you seen a spike in usage of your partner agencies and, by extension, the food bank as well?
What we've seen in the last couple of years, between 2008 and 2010, we saw a big increase. Mm-hmm. Again, it paralleled the economic recession. In the last year, we have seen the need level off. So while we're serving about the same number of people in 2010 that we did in 2009, what we're seeing is those same number of people need help more often. Mm-hmm. So what that tells us is that people who thought they were going to be out of work for maybe 6 months are now out of work for a year to 18 months, and they're needing assistance in feeding their families for longer periods of time.
And things keep getting more expensive, but the benefits they have aren't necessarily increasing.
That's right. That's right. So that's not great news for individuals for their own families, but what is good is the generosity of this community. Each year, the food bank collects and distributes more and more food, so we do feel that we are able to keep up with the demand for food assistance that's out there.
How does the food bank get food?
We work with a variety of food donors. Some are very local, like the local supermarkets, as well as people, businesses, schools in the community that want to do a food drive. Mm-hmm. But we also work with national food donors, such as Kraft, General Mills, all of those large food companies. And about 1/3 of our food comes from local national supermarkets, things like that. Another 2/3 come from government, both state government and the federal government. So the United States Department of Agriculture gives us food. They see us as a very efficient distribution system, and then the state of Massachusetts is also very supportive, and they give us funding for which we can purchase food.
Tell us a little bit about that funding. So is it mostly federal, mostly state, private donations? How does that all work out?
The majority of our financial support, believe it or not, comes from individuals.
Really?
Like you and me, people who write us a check, who say, I can do something to help my fellow neighbor in need. Mm-hmm. So that's about 51% of our budget comes from folks who give us anywhere from $1 to $1,000.
Wow.
And then we have to do a variety of other things, such as we write grants, we have special events, we will do direct mail where we send out letters asking people to support us. Right. So we've built a very strong and diverse base of financial support. So again, that has kept up with the need as well.
And if people want to make a contribution to the food bank, how would they go about doing that?
Oh, there's a couple of different ways. They can go to our website, which is www.foodbank.org, and they can make an online donation, or they can mail it to us. And our mailing address is 474 Boston Turnpike, Shrewsbury, Mass. 01545.
Right off the top of your head.
Yeah. I would also encourage people, if they want to, stop by and visit the food bank so that they can see actually where their donation is going and how it's at work in the community. I always encourage people, before you make a donation, learn more about the organization. Ask questions. It's important. There's a lot of needs out there. There's a lot of wonderful organizations. So as a donor, you should definitely have the information you need to make a good decision.
And I think it's a good idea to do that because they can see where their donation is going and see how well run the food bank is, how clean it is. Right. And just see the scope of the food in that place. Right. I mean, it's a very large building, and there's a lot of food in there, and that's turning over about once a month, you said?
Right. So in 2010, we distributed about 5.6 million pounds of food.
Wow.
And I tell people that that's enough food for approximately 4.3 million meals. And so in a year's time, the food bank is distributing in any given week enough food for 83,000 meals. And again, we might serve as a centralized distribution center, but those are 83,000 meals going out to all the communities of Worcester County.
Right.
And I would encourage people, if they can't make it to Shrewsbury, there's really no need. Find out where your local food pantry is, and the food bank can help you. If you don't know, we have a directory on our website, but we're very happy to let you know who are the folks in your community doing some really great work, making sure no one goes without. And that's another way to support the food bank, by visiting your local food pantry.
Because you can make donations there as well.
You can make donations there, and we're really working together.
Sure.
So whatever you do to help them, you help the food bank, and vice versa.
Every December, you partner, or we actually partner with you with the radio station, and we do the Feed Worcester County Food Drive. This year we got just about $50,000 and about 29,000 pounds of food. How much did that fund for you folks? Like, how long did that last before it turned over?
Well, that amount of food we distribute almost in one day.
Wow.
So the message is that those kinds of food drives, even though they might only supply us with a day's worth of food, they're still very important, because we have to make sure that every day we have that much food to distribute.
Right.
So that helped us immensely. As far as the funds go, I think people will be glad to know that we can really do a lot with the funding we receive. So for every dollar we receive, we can distribute $5 worth of food. So $45,000 or $50,000 is really like $250,000. And we can make it go so far because we're not buying the food. We have to pay transportation. But for a couple of $100s, we can bring in 30,000 pounds of food.
Right.
And you can't buy that much food for a couple $100s.
That's a few semi-trailers full of food.
Those are tractor trailer, yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So that's it's a very efficient use of the donated food and money.
Right, and this is actually food that really doesn't have any place else to go. So that's why we're doing something good for the environment, as well as something good for our neighbors, because you'd hate to see really good food end up in the landfill. So the donors are happy to bring it to us, and they get a tax deduction. So it really is a win-win for
Right.
everybody.
That's wonderful. Now, also, we talked a little bit about individuals helping, the government helping. Also, corporations have played a role in helping the food bank through the years. Tell us about how corporations can get involved, and how they have gotten involved in the past.
Well, thank you for reminding me of that, because I was remiss in not mentioning them earlier. When we write grants to foundations, obviously they are very supportive of us, and as our corporations, they also have grants that they give to the community. And they're usually pretty flexible. If we've identified a need, they will say, great, we definitely want to support that. So sometimes their support will go to help just our general operating expenses. You know, we have to keep the lights turned on and the heat on and things like that. But over the last couple of years, we have earmarked some funds to help us support the local economy. So now the food bank is able to purchase some food using funds, and we earmark that for local fresh produce, fresh fruits and vegetables. So we're supporting the local farm economy while at the same time helping to boost people's nutrition.
That leads into my next question, which is artful on your part. Thank you. What sort of food items do you look for at the food bank, and which would you ask that folks not necessarily give you?
Well, we don't like to collect things in glass.
Okay,
I think it's
that makes
obvious
sense.
because we are handling food at the food bank. We have volunteers who have to sort and check it for food safety, expiration dates, as well as the staff. And glass is just that much more difficult to handle.
Sure.
So anything that comes in a box or a can, especially if it's a food drive, we like to collect the non-perishable food items.
Okay.
Cereal's always a big item, canned pasta, peanut butter, tuna fish, you know, beans, and those like protein items.
Good staples.
Good staples. When people come to the food bank, they'll see that we have mostly that type of food in our warehouse, but we also handle prepared and perishable food. So we have a large freezer, a large cooler. We'll have frozen meats, frozen pasta. We might have even some ice cream. But we also have a truck that's dedicated to going around and picking up fresh prepared and perishable food from delis, from farms, and that food most likely goes directly to a program. It doesn't come back to the food bank because it's perishable, so you have to move it quickly and safely. But we're set up to do that very well. We train our agencies to handle that. You know, food safety is a big issue, and we care about that as much as we do the nutrition. They do go hand in hand.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you ensure that, because with so much food going through there and so many people consuming that food, you want to make sure that that food is safe. What sort of steps do you take to ensure that that happens?
We're required by local, public health, state, and federal to keep a clean warehouse, to have all of our volunteers, staff, the partner agencies all trained in food safety. You know, donors give it to us knowing that we'll turn it around and make sure it gets to someone who needs it. It would be a terrible thing to take good product, and because we didn't handle it right, then we have to end up throwing it away.
Right.
So the one thing that makes the food bank work so well is the good communication, the focus on food safety, on making sure resources get to where it's needed most. And over 29 years, we've just developed systems and the reputation for being able to do just that. So that's why I think we see people giving to us more and more, is because they know that we know how to do food.
I think I can speak from personal experience that that's certainly the case. Again, your facility is spotless, very well organized, and you have not a large staff, but they all know what they're doing, and more importantly, they can bring the volunteers along so that the volunteers are contributing right away to the efficiency of the program.
Right.
If someone's interested in volunteering, how can they go about learning how to do that?
So they, again, can go to our website, and or they can also call us, and we have an orientation program. We bring folks in and we say, you know, these are some of the volunteer jobs that we have. If it's not going to be a good match just because of our hours or whatever, we're happy to make referrals to local partner agencies where folks can also offer their volunteer services.
What sort of jobs do volunteers do there?
Primarily, they help us sorting food. Because we're distributing millions and millions of pounds of food, and that all has to be inspected, we could never afford to have that many paid employees. So the volunteers, while they're nice, they are also very integral to our operations. And I've had volunteers tell me that they feel such a deep connection. They may never meet the people that they're helping, but they know that the cans of food that touch their hands today are going to be in the hands of a family, and they say that just touches them deeply.
That's a pretty profound experience. With regard to people who can volunteer, church groups, youth organizations, is there any limit to the folks who can do that?
Not really. I like to think of the food bank as being a place for everybody, and we will welcome church groups, youth groups, corporate groups that like to do team building. We do have a lot of folks who have retired and are giving back this way. We also have people who have been unemployed but want to stay connected, so they'll come, and as long as they're there, we're happy to have them, but we're also hopeful that they'll get back to working as soon as possible.
We meet a lot of them at the food drive. People come up and say, I used the food bank last year, I want to help the food bank this year now that I'm back on my feet in a better circumstance, and that's really a nice story to see people moving along and
absolutely
looking to help the people that still need it. And
that's really a reality. You know, I like to think of what we're doing is creating this circle that really embraces all of us. And, when we think about it, throughout our lives, we are all people of need. We all need something, but we're also people who give. And we may never know which end we're going to be on. Right. And I've been at the food bank for 16 years, and I've met people, donors, who have had to ask for help, as well as people who have received help who are now giving back. It's a wonderful experience for all of us to be involved in something like this.
It must be, to have you coming back day after day for 16 years.
Yeah,
so.
Well, it's a credit to the staff, the volunteers, our donors, the people in the media who help us get the word out. We have a wonderful board of directors, and we're all working together. We have a wonderful team, and I feel very blessed to be able to do what I'm doing with the people that I get to work with and meet.
And it certainly, I think, is a blessing to the community to have a resource like the Worcester County Food Bank. What do you see as the biggest challenges before you right now in this day and age?
Well, we are still completely dependent on donations, both food and financial, as well as volunteers. So we are always planning so that if we ever see a decrease in any of that, we can respond proactively. But I think, you know, the food bank is 29 years old, and at some point we've said, you know, we have to continue to feed people who are hungry today, but is there something more that we should be doing? And so now I'm very much focused on how can we engage people to become anti-hunger advocates. You know, the food drives are important and all of that, but what more can we be doing together so that we're looking at ending hunger, looking at long-term solutions? And we just don't have enough anti-hunger advocates just yet, but we're working on it.
So actually, because the root problem is hunger.
Right.
So until that is alleviated, you're still having to provide.
Right. I mean, we have wonderful elected officials at all levels who care about this issue, so we just need to make sure that we're sending them the message that, you know, if there's a bill or if there's a piece of legislation or something, you know, hunger is an issue that's important to us. We want to see more done about it. So we need to, you know, continue to communicate with our elected officials about what priorities are important to us.
Over the years, you've seen hunger sort of be a continuous problem, and you're putting more food through the food bank than you ever have before. So it looks like those efforts toward prevention go a long way.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's lots of programs out there that people need to take advantage of. You know, we're an emergency solution, but there's lots of programs out there like this food stamp program, like school breakfast and school lunch. Our goal is to make sure that people are maximizing all those resources so that at least they can be food secure. They may not still be earning enough to be self-sufficient, but as long as they can be food secure, that's you know, part of the battle.
And just one more time, Jean, how can people get involved to help the food bank or at their local food pantry?
Our phone number, 508-842-3663. If you can't remember that last part, it's just 842-FOOD. You can go to our website. You can also, you know, the old-fashioned way, give us a call. We get lots of calls from people, I would say, every week who are looking for help. But on the same hand, we're also getting lots of calls from people who say, I can do something, what can I do to help? And I've always told folks, as long as we can keep those kind of calls, you know, together, running parallel, we'll be fine. So never underestimate the power of what one person can do. Give us a call.
I think that's a good message to take away.
Great. Thank you.
Jean, thank you for joining us. Now you can find out about the hunger resources that are available in your community. Please stay tuned.